Imagine strutting across a stage in front of 50,000 people, spotlights blazing, guitars screaming, and you, at 79 years old, moving with the speed, swagger, and stamina of a man half your age. That's Mick Jagger. The guy could probably outdance your nephew at a wedding, outlast you on a morning run, and still hit every note without gasping for breath. And here's the kicker. He's the same age as US President Joe Biden. Yet instead of shuffling through speeches, he's leaping across arenas with chiseled abs, hair that refuses to quit, and an energy level that should honestly be illegal. So, what is he doing that the rest of us aren't? There's one particular habit near the end of his routine that even die-hard Stones fans don't know about. And once you hear it, you might question everything you thought you knew about aging. Now, pause for a second and think about what you were doing at 79. Oh wait, you're probably not there yet. But picture this. Most people that age are debating which orthopedic shoes to buy or battling with the TV remote like it's a Rubik's Cube. Meanwhile, Mick's out here doing high kicks and leather pants, making 20-year-olds rethink their life choices. It's the kind of contrast that makes you look down at your half-eaten takeout and wonder if maybe, just maybe, you're living wrong. Because here's the truth, Mick Jagger isn't just defying time. He's mugging it, taking its wallet, and running off laughing. Mick's story doesn't start with kale smoothies or Pilates classes. It starts in Dartford, Kent, England, back in 1943. Born Michael Philip Jagger, he grew up in a middle-class family where his mom, Eva, filled the house with jazz and blues records. By the time other kids were still figuring out how to tie their shoes, Mick was absorbing every beat, every riff. London clubs became his second home, and fate had a funny way of seating him at the right table. One night, he bumped into Brian Jones, Ian Stewart, and a young Keith Richards. Together, they formed the Rolling Stones in 1962, and Mick's stage presence became their not-so-secret weapon. From day one, Mick wasn't just performing songs, he was performing himself. Every grin, every hip shake, every smirk had this unspoken you-can't-look-away magnetism. And let's be honest, most of us can't even pull that off in our own living rooms. You ever tried dancing in front of a mirror, thinking you've got smooth moves, only to catch a glimpse and realize you look like you're being attacked by invisible bees? Yeah, Mick's been doing that in front of millions for 6 decades, and instead of embarrassment, people call it legendary. But that kind of energy? It's not just caffeine in a good playlist. It's built, maintained, and sharpened over decades. If you think a man in his late 70s is still jumping 3 feet in the air without a serious plan, you're dreaming harder than someone who says, just one more Netflix episode. First, let's clear this up. Mick is sober now. He's walked away from drugs, and while you'll occasionally see him with a glass of wine, it's done in the most disciplined, calculated way possible. He figured out early that if he wanted to keep putting on the kind of shows that make people pay $600 for a seat, he'd need a body capable of doing it. Yes, the same man who once embodied rock and roll excess is now the guy who packs green smoothies. Honestly, if 20-year-old Mick saw 70-year-old Mick, he'd probably ask, "Who kidnapped you and replaced you with a yoga instructor?" So what does breakfast look like for a rock god turned wellness guru? Forget greasy spoons. Forget late-night pizza reheated at 10 a.m. He fuels with whole grain cereals, fresh fruit, yogurt, and either fresh juice or a smoothie. Not exactly scandalous, but it's the kind of slow burn energy that lets him rehearse for hours without face planting by lunch. Lunch? Usually grilled chicken or fish with whole grains like quinoa or brown rice, plus a mountain of roasted veggies. Think of it as the culinary opposite of a backstage pizza box. Snacks? Strategic. Almonds, fruit, hummus with veggie sticks. Dinner is where things get colorful. Grilled salmon, asparagus, leafy greens, olive oil, balsamic. The kind of plate you'd see in a wellness cookbook or on your friend's Instagram story with the caption, self-care. And he's militant about hydration. Water, herbal teas, and, yes, the occasional wine. But never enough to mess with his recovery. He's even tried the keto diet in the past to strip off body fat for those rare, shirtless stage moments. Yes, even Mick Jagger knows the terror of bad lighting and an unexpected side angle. But if you really want to know the secret to Mick's impossible endurance, you have to look at what he does when the crowd isn't watching. His workout routine could make a personal trainer sweat just describing it. Cardio is the backbone. He runs several miles a day. When he's not running, he's swimming, cycling, or, surprise, dancing. Because in Mick's world, rehearsals aren't just practice. They're calorie-burning, sweat-dripping, hope-you-wore-deodorant workouts. And cardio is only half the picture. Mick is as committed to strength training as he is to those iconic hip swivels. Resistance training, functional movements, body weight work, all targeted to keep his joints healthy, his muscles strong, and his stage movements effortless. And while most people his age might be using yoga to gently stretch their backs, Mick's doing it for balance, flexibility, and core strength that would put most gym regulars to shame. Pilates too, because apparently, rock gods don't believe in skipping ab day. Here's a twist. He's trained in martial arts. Kickboxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, giving him explosive power, lightning-fast reflexes, and mental discipline. So yes, if a mic stand ever came at him the wrong way, he could probably drop kick it into the next song. But training this hard at 79 means recovery isn't optional. He's got a system: foam rolling, targeted stretches, massages. He treats recovery like part of the job, because it is. Skip recovery, and suddenly that famous leap becomes a very awkward stumble. Of course, there was one moment that nearly derailed it all. In 2019, Mick needed heart surgery to replace a damaged valve. The Stones had to postpone their North American tour, something fans thought might be the final curtain call. But just weeks later, footage surfaced of him back in the dance studio, moving with the same ferocity as ever. That heart surgery? It wasn't a setback. It was a wake-up call. And judging by how fast he bounced back, you'd think they replaced his heart with a lithium battery. Now let's talk about his mind. Mick doesn't just train his body, he trains his brain. He meditates to clear mental clutter, uses yoga to center himself, and knows when to protect his energy. Songwriting, performing, even just jamming with friends, these aren't just hobbies, they're mental health strategies, and he surrounds himself with a tight circle. Friends, family, fellow musicians, the kind of people who remind you where you came from and keep you grounded. Because here's the thing, success doesn't mean much if your head isn't in the right place. Remember that unusual habit I teased at the start? Here it is. Mick makes a point to explore completely new hobbies and passions outside of music. Not just as a distraction, but to keep his brain firing. Art, theater, random new skills, anything that forces him to learn. It's cross-training for the brain, because when you stop learning, you start aging, and Mick refuses to do either. So what's the Mick formula? A nutrient-rich diet with 0 empty meals, a training regimen that would humble a man half his age, recovery habits as disciplined as his workouts, a mental wellness plan that keeps him balanced, and a refusal to ever stop moving, in every sense of the word. Genetics may deal the cards, but lifestyle plays the hand. And Mick Jagger, he's not just playing it, he's stacking the deck. So the next time you see him bounding across a stage, remember, he's not just defying time. He's rewriting the rules for all of us. And maybe, just maybe, he's proof that aging well isn't about the years you've lived, but how many of them you've spent dancing.